Hey everyone, Matt Lanza here, editor of the iWall. I want to give you an update on what's happening in the tropics. Call this our Tropical TikTok. It is Friday, June 16th. We do have a system that we're watching out in the Atlantic, and we want to talk a little bit about what it means, what it doesn't mean going forward. Let's run you through what's happening right now in the world of the tropics as we watch the Atlantic in June, which is in and of itself seems a little ridiculous. But let's walk you through things. All right, let's take a look at what's happening out there right now. The National Hurricane Center has now raised the odds of this lovely disturbance out just off the coast of Africa to about 60%, a 60% chance of developing over the next 7 days. What does this disturbance actually look like on satellite? Well, if we take a look at a satellite loop here from weathernerds.org, you can see there's really not a lot to it. It's sitting out here in the open Atlantic just off the coast of Africa right here. No spin to it yet, really no organization to it yet. It's just a blob of showers and thunderstorms. So nothing to this at this point. But if you are a weather model, you are convinced something is going to happen. Here's a look at what the GFS model does. And if we watch generally in this area right here, you can sort of see where it's initializing this disturbance this afternoon. We'll roll things forward in time a little bit. You can see as we go through the next couple of days, this is now taking us out to Sunday afternoon, we finally start to see things closing off here a little bit. It is starting to develop according to the GFS model as it's coming to the west. And then if we keep moving forward in time, it keeps developing and eventually strengthening into potentially a hurricane, at least according to the GFS model, by the time we get to next Wednesday, east of the Lesser Antilles. And because it gets so strong, it is more likely to gain latitude. It can sort of barge its way through ridging to the north, and especially as the ridging weakens, it has kind of an exit lane that opens up, and that takes it off to the north, and away it goes, and then eventually it goes out to sea, doing some fun little loop-de-loops here with a upper level low over the Atlantic, kind of a weird sort of scenario. Okay, cool. So that is the GFS model. How about the European model? What does it show? Well, as we continue to move this forward in time, you can continue to see it starting to show some organization. The maps that we're looking at here are looking up about 10,000 feet, and what we want to see is basically this little closing off of what we would call circulation or some signal of low pressure that's showing up 10,000 feet up. It's kind of a good indicator that something is trying to happen in the tropics. So that's one thing we're looking for. This is now out to next Tuesday morning, and the European model also continues to show this developing into a compact but pretty significant system just east of the islands. And because, again, it gets pretty strong, it starts to turn to the north, though not as fast as the GFS. This is why, again, operational models have limited utility, because if you looked at the GFS, safely out to sea, but if you look at the European model here, it's another story entirely, and it becomes something a little bit more interesting perhaps for the islands, Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. All right, so let's take a look at the ensembles. Again, those are the operational models that we just looked at. These are the ensembles, and what these do is basically take initialization point, what's happening right now, and tweaks things just a little bit. And we run them 50 times on the Euro, 30 plus times on the GFS, and we get a little bit more of a spread of outcomes that are possible. So this is not necessarily looking at the answer key to what's happening, but it's looking for trends, signals, anything that'll stand out to us as meteorologists. And what we see right here are that stronger storms, indicated by more of the green lines, that means a stronger max wind. These storms are more likely to turn north faster than the weaker storms, which are the more blue lines here. This is the European ensemble. So we're looking at 50 different members. Almost all of them develop the system in some capacity. Probably about 1/3 of them are strong, 2/3 of them are weak. So that's kind of our signal right now. Okay, we're probably going to have something develop. We don't know how strong it's going to be, but if it does get strong quickly, it should turn north out to sea, whereas if it stays fairly weak, it would probably track more toward the islands. Let's validate this a little bit more with the GFS to get another idea. This is the GFS ensembles. This is 30 plus ensemble members. Again, almost all of them develop the storm. Stronger ones go to the north. That's indicated by the yellow and red lines. Weaker ones, more in the blue-green lines here to the south, more into the islands. The interesting thing is this is looking a week out. So this is looking at next Friday where things could be. The interesting thing is that the ones that keep the system weak and track it into the islands kind of dissolve it by the time it gets to about Puerto Rico or Hispaniola. So, whatever happens in the islands, should it track to the islands, should be on the lower end, we think, at this point. So if it does get strong, it would be more likely to turn out to sea before it gets there. So, that's kind of what we're going to be watching over the next several days. How quickly does the system evolve? How strong is it going to get? and that'll help determine exactly where it tracks. We'll be watching some higher latitude or higher altitude features, see what's happening in the upper atmosphere to try and get a better idea as to how this system may proceed. So that's kind of it right now. We're sort of in watch and wait mode. What we know is that there is probably a system that is going to try and develop. There's a pretty good chance it will actually develop. How strong it is remains to be seen. Whether it's an actual threat to the islands remains to be seen. But as we saw, weaker systems would be more likely to go toward the islands, where stronger systems would be more likely to turn away in this sort of development scenario. So the hope would be that even if it does make it to the islands, it would be sort of on the lower end of the spectrum of intensity, at least. That doesn't mean you can't have problems with seas and waves and rain. Certainly things we'll be watching for the Caribbean, but hopefully the worst case scenario for those locations doesn't materialize. This is really rare for early June. I can't really emphasize that enough. This is strange. We don't usually see development this far to the east, but it speaks to how warm the water temperatures are in the Atlantic Ocean right now. They're exceptionally warm in the eastern Atlantic. A normal season, this thing would just be done quickly as it moves to the west. So something that is unusual, but we still have to keep an eye on, and we'll keep you posted on that. You can check the site, theiwall.com, for the latest posts. We'll probably have one. We'll take tomorrow off, but we'll probably have an update for you on Sunday as to what's going on with this thing. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. Let us know. Happy to answer them as we can. Take care.